Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm going to do a presentation here on field experience in full stack development. So I'm a software developer that's both full-time and full stack. I work at Willetts Technology in Cumberland, and it's an IT company that specializes in human service. So we work on like electronic health and medical record systems mainly. We also do some custom web development, and more recently, like within the last year, we've been doing some custom desktop development as well. So for technology, over the last 16 weeks, I've worked with like 20 plus different projects / clients, and we use all different types of technologies. We're mainly a LAMP stack, so we mainly use Cake PHP, which is a PHP MVC framework. And we also use some WordPress as well. And some front-end technologies we use is like Bootstrap, React.js, Sass and Less for CSS. For backend, we use like Apache, Nginx, and for like databases, we use MySQL, Realm, and for like VMs and just like running things, we use Vagrant, Ansible for provisioning, and we also use Docker. And then for like version control and stuff, we use Git through GitLab. We actually have our own GitLab server that we use for that. And then just a quick overview of the field experience is that as a full stack developer, I not only work with a full tech stack with like all those different types of technologies that you saw there, but I also work directly with the clients. So, and really what we do with software, and we develop software, we're trying to meet the needs of the clients through that. And we design, construct, and maintain all software for them. So for like designing, right, we kind of talk with the clients, we gather and analyze any requirements that they have that they need, and we kind of plan a solution, and then we give the clients like a quote to say like, how long is this going to take? You know, how feasible is this? And then like it can loop back as well. Where if it doesn't really meet their solution, or the quote's not really right, it's a little bit too high or something like that, we can then reanalyze and everything with new requirements and kind of go through that process again. But finally, when the clients are ready, they like the plan, they like the quote and everything, we can start constructing the software. And what we do for that is we work locally to develop it on our computers. And then when we're done with it, we'll actually put it into like a sandbox environment, or sometimes even to production if we're really confident that it works. And we'll show it to the client, let them know, and let them see. And if they have any feedback from us, we can either continue or we can then work on it some more. And then like if they have like another suggestion or something, they need something else, we might go back into the design phase a little bit and then kind of go through the whole process again. But then once the client's really happy with it and everything like that, then we do maintenance on it. So right, we'll work on new features, any bug fixes that can happen. But another thing we'll do is defect triage, right? So with defect triage, what we're really doing is we're assessing how urgent an error report or a ticket that comes in, because we have a ticket system. And that as well just kind of loops all back again, right? So it's like a completely iterative process there. So, and one nice thing about the defect triage is a lot of our software, we actually have an option for users to, like if an error report happens or something like that, they can actually fill it out and it'll send us a direct email, which is really, really nice. Also, it has like the email would have all the stack trace information that the clients don't see, but we get to see and help debugging it. One of the first projects examples that I want to talk about today is the PUPS EHR, the electronic health record system that we have regarding password expiration feature that I worked on during this field experience. And what PUPS is actually a suite of human service EHR applications. There's like two main parts to it currently. The one part is a website, which is kind of like the core, because the core server API. And then there's also an offline part to it as well, which is we call it Unleashed, actually, because to go with the dog analogy. And that is an Electron.js application, which if you don't know what Electron is basically a Chromium browser that you can kind of use Node to kind of control and everything like that. And we use that along with React.js to kind of give like a desktop experience for them that they can take the records offline with them, like visit a residential area, fill out notes, and fill out the medical information that they need, where like the resident might not, at that location, they might not have any internet, and then be able to take that when they finally get back to their headquarters, they can then sync everything back up to the site. And in particular for this project, I'm the primary developer. Like generally any code that goes through it, I've seen it somewhere down the line, and I'm mainly the person that kind of makes all the code live. And I kind of work on the maintenance, the new features, and all the code reviews of it. So for the password expiration feature, they really needed it for security, right? We needed to be able to force users to change their password. And we made it so that it kind of be customizable. So normally it's like every 3 months or something like that. And we needed to basically notify them of the needed change of their password, like to give them a warning, as well as to actually expire their password so they could prevent them from logging in. And particularly for this assignment that I was working on, it was actually assigned to another developer who only completed about half of it. He transitioned to go work for another company, and I was able to finish it for him. He left a really, really good foundation for it. And so it wasn't too difficult to make it live and to finish it up. But the most challenging part about the email about it was the email notification part. We were trying to do the time math, because the direction he was going was good, but it didn't really have the notification part finished yet. So in order to do the time math, I actually had to draw a bunch of diagrams and everything to kind of verify, like, if it was going to work and everything like that. And I made it live this was probably back in February. And actually, the funny part is, while reviewing this, code, inspecting the code again for this presentation, I actually did find a minor defect in it, which was interesting. It actually would send a notification that the user's password was going to expire, like it was going to expire soon after the password already expired. We would do it both before and after. So I was able to fix that actually while prepping for this presentation. And that really just shows like our software process is really, it's iterative, it's continuous, there's never really like a final part to it. It's just kind of always growing, always being made better. Another example of a project is kind of like dates and time zones issues that I've worked on. And one of those is like, is a misinterpretation of UDC dates. So in a lot of our systems, we keep dates just as UDC timestamp at midnight. And anytime that a user has, user tries to interact with it, like do a time query or something, the EDT or EST is normally the time zone that they use, but there's other time zones as well. So you just can't like programmatically just say +5 or -5, -4 or anything like that. You kind of have to use the time, use the time zone of the user. And that was really what was happening here, is the date in UDC was being misinterpreted as the previous day. So as of 8 p.m. or 7 p.m., depending on the time zone. And there's hidden cases in this. So like normally when a developer is developing this, they might not check those edge cases. They might not know that, if something was actually, if they would have queried at a certain time, they were actually getting a wrong date or a new date or something like that. So the solution was to keep everything in UDC regarding the dates, if it was like purely a date, and we would use the user's time zone to basically, extract out the date and then reattach in the UTC time zone, so that way the queries and everything worked. And I've had to do this for quite a few projects in the last 16 weeks. Another project is PANDA that I got to work on, and it is another EHR system, electronic health record system. It is quite large, and it's a lot older and more mature than PUPS. It's been a while for quite a while. And one of the parts in PANDA that we have is a time helper, which is part of the view of the MVC framework of Cake. So MVC stands for Model View Controller Framework. And in this part in the view is in the templates, in the PHP templates that basically is what renders the page, right, for the users. So the time helper is in there and allows you to quickly use like a snippet of code to kind of transform some variables or to get some information showed into the template. In this case, this time helper basically quickly converted a time date from the database or from the model into a time that the user understands. It actually would kind of see who the user is, see what their time zone is, and just make it something that they can understand using a time pattern format. So what the issue was that erroneous time format patterns were being used. So, and this only ever showed up in edge cases. And because it was really hard to detect, it went across the whole entire system throughout the whole entire project. And developers would use this pattern over and over and over again because it looked fine. There's nothing really wrong with it, but they just weren't aware of the edge cases. And I tried to do some research to see what this was, because this happened a few months ago that I worked on this. I think this was back in like February or March. And what it was we were using 4 capital Ys instead of 4 lowercase y's in the time format and in the pattern. And 4 capital Ys in the particular pattern, I think it's an I-18N. It's like an international standard. That particular case used the year of the week, not the year of the day. So like December 31st, 2019, the year for that would actually be 2020, because the week is using like the 2020 week. It was really weird. I tried to look up some documentation for this, but the original link that we used to find the original link we used for the documentation to look for it the link is down. We can't find it anymore. And the I-18N, they posted a new link that just doesn't have that particular case. So I wasn't able to really confirm, but it definitely, and I think what it was is I think they probably fixed it, and it's because our code's a little bit older. And that's why we couldn't, because our code's a little bit older, that's why we needed to apply the fix. So we lucked out in the sense of the documentation was, the documentation was good for the time. So, so for the solution, right, what we had to do was we had to find all the patterns in the entire system, all the time patterns that were in there. And this took some really crafty regular expressions to generate this list. But then once we found all the patterns, we then had to find all the bad patterns, fix them, and then apply the fix then to all the different locations that was inside the whole entire system. And then we basically replacing the uppercase Ys to lowercase y's. And there was actually a few other issues in there as well with other time patterns. And once we did that, then I ran the regex again, got the new list, removed all the duplicates, and actually made a whitelist, so that anytime that a developer tried to use a pattern, it had to be checked first. So it would be one of those patterns that's inside of the whitelist. So that you kind of force the developers to only use the good ones. So whenever a developer is in debug mode, it actually throws an error, and we did that on purpose to kind of wake up the developer, like, hey, don't use that, use one of these. And I put notes in there. So like a developer does that, says, hey, if you really meant to use that, just add it to the whitelist, right? But for production mode, right? So if it doesn't throw an error, it just basically throws a log. So the users will see, they'll see the time zone, like what it was, not the time zone, but the users will see the time, incorrectly, but no errors would be thrown. It would be like what it was before, but we'll log it. So that way in the future, like if something did get this far, which it shouldn't, but if just in case it does, we'll be able to catch it and then fix it later. Then I'm also going to talk a little bit about MastersWorks and field experience. I kind of really feel that every class that I've taken in the MastersWorks has really contributed and helped me with my job. Like with networking, it's the communication of the multiple parts of systems and learning how that kind of works, and as well as like the team collaboration by group projects and such like that. Really learning how to work with others with the software, all the different parts. And like secure computing, another thing is the asymmetric encryption concepts. It's really important to know like how public key and private keys work. I work with like a bunch of different like concepts that rely on this, like public key and private keys all the time with like SSLs and SSH. Generally like once a week I might install an SSL for a site or something like that. And it's really important to know like, that a public key is something that other people see. Private key is the only thing that you see, right? And you shouldn't let other people see the private key because it kind of defeats the whole purpose. So it's really important to know that and know how that concept works to kind of really keep your site secure. And then like with SSH, for for logging into servers, right? It's really important to use to know like how public keys and private keys work, so that like so that you can log into a server without having to actually keep a password. You just use your keys. And knowing, and once again, like knowing that you would give the server your public key, not your private key, and that's how it would know to authenticate you to get into there. Because that's how, you know, during my job, that's how a lot of times how we log into servers and how we like even do Git and GitLab and stuff, is we use SSH keys to kind of authenticate ourselves. Another thing is like database, right? Is like the storing and querying of data, you know, joins, subqueries, indexes, primary keys, foreign keys. It's just all the time in Cake. Cake can use different databases, but the one database that we use the most is MySQL. And all the times we write migrations, we have to know like how to basically add a field and how to migrate that over, what all the different, you know, things how you can set up for the field and set up indexes and stuff like that. And Cake has a built-in ORM, or an object relational mapper, I believe, and it'll basically let you basically write PHP code that'll pull everything out of your database for you, and allows you to actually write custom queries and everything, and everything kind of translates into SQL for you. And with databases, right, a solid database kind of gives you really what you need. It gives you a really good solid foundation for when you're making your application. Like if you didn't really have a good database, the application's going to suffer. But if you have a really good database, it'll kind of make it really easy in the development process for that, because all your data is going to be there and you'll be able to access it correctly and quickly. The other part too is like the client's data is one of the most important aspects of that. So if you keep the database clean and really well maintained, that kind of really helps you with a lot of things down the road. Software engineering, you know, with the software development processes, learning about all the different types of that. One in particular, Scrum, right? That's actually what I've used during this field experience. Used it at my job. We use like a slight variation of Scrum, a little bit custom to kind of suit our needs. But it's really good to kind of see and compare and see all the differences of these different approaches, and to kind of like, I guess, kind of learn from them and then like make those like variations. As well, for software engineering, we did a lot of team collaboration. We had a project that we worked together to build. Also, as well as anti-patterns, in the sense, in particular, for software engineering, I wrote a paper and a presentation about anti-patterns. And I've found that really insightful, because anti-patterns are basically they're basically solutions to problems that that you would think would do well, but in actuality, it can cause issues down the line. It isn't like it's not the best solution to use. And anti-patterns is basically a way of identifying those solutions that have been used that aren't really effective as they should be, and then how to refactor them and make, you know, and fix those problems. So I feel that's been really, really insightful, and while working. Let's see here. Then web development, right? I'm mainly a web software developer, so this class was really, really useful in kind of learning all the different types of web technologies and being familiar with them. The web technology rapidly changes. Like it's insane of how rapid it changes and with trends. There was one project I worked on in like 2017 that originally it used a tech stack that was like from 2015, right? So the project began in 2015 and used like AngularJS, and then by 2017, when I got to work on it, it was already kind of outdated. It was I think Angular 2 came out, which used TypeScript, and it's just kind of interesting to see like 2 years passed and already, you know, the framework has already been even using a different language, right? Going from JavaScript to TypeScript. But it's also important with all these different web technologies to kind of see the similarities and the differences and stuff like that, to kind of see what type of technology is good for a good certain project, because you really should never pick like a certain technology because of wanting to work with that technology. You should kind of pick technologies to kind of suit the best needs for the client. You know what I mean? So it's kind of goes in that direction. Also with this class, you know, learning and doing a bunch of different projects, and particularly like the user interface design, usability. I really feel this was really invaluable in kind of making web software better for clients, right? You know, learning how to and design things well for the clients. And I remember with this class, right, being able to like, so I took this class last summer. I remember like learning about stuff and doing the readings, and then actually being able to apply that stuff to like the next day, which I think was really, really neat. You know, applying the basically, yeah, being able to apply the stuff or work the very next day, which is really cool. Then like for data structures, right? Runtime analysis, being able to basically write really efficient and fast code, knowing like, you know, like how many, you know, for loops you're using and everything, try to keep everything as efficient as possible. And it's really helped me kind of write concise code that with data structures now, you know, with using the right type of data structures and such. And an example of that is developing a solution that we used a tree data structure to kind of help manage patients' histories when they were going from like one program or dorm or clinic at a time. It was kind of like different scopes, different kind of like levels. And we kind of needed a tree structure to kind of keep track of everything. Because what was happening was we were having like times in, like check-in times and check-out times and everything, and dates weren't matching and everything. So the way to simplify this was to kind of use a tree data structure that kind of just concisely answered the problem and solved it. And while being a full-time employee and earning a master's degree, it's been a bit challenging, but it's definitely been rewarding because of like I said earlier, it's really neat to like learn something in class and then like the very next day be able to apply it. That's been really, really cool. Then I also want to talk a little bit about with COVID, you know, like at the beginning of the semester, we had like no idea that any of this would happen, and it kind of feel like kind of really a bit surreal with all of this. And, you know, and things that like just a few months ago, we just took for granted that we just can't do today. And, you know, being an FSU student, especially like an online FSU student, I feel really, really fortunate to be that, as well as to be able to kind of work remote. And then like some of the challenges, right, was there's no more in-person face-to-face communications. So I can never just walk over to someone's office and talk with them and like, you know, draw a problem on the whiteboard and try to solve the problem together. We really don't have that anymore. So one of the solutions that I've used is a Rocketbook. A fellow coworker back in like January, February recommended it to me. And I've been using it for college and work. And it basically uses a special pen to write onto. It uses I think a friction erase pen, and you can basically write in the pages, and then you can take a picture of it. And because of computer vision, it'll convert the pages into images as well as even PDFs if you want it to, with OCR. So it'll actually make your notes, your handwritten notes, searchable. So you can search for like whatever you've written. So I've been using this and it's been great. I've been able to like draw up an idea, take a picture of it, and send it over to a coworker, and been able to collaborate that way. Another challenge is we used to do in-person Scrum meetings, believe it or not. And last fall we had a coworker actually become remote. So we actually started doing a transition from going from having like no telecommuting to some telecommunicating. And we did this like slowly over time. And we did mainly two different things to do this, right? First thing we did is we transitioned from a physical Scrum board. Yes, we actually had a physical Scrum board with sticky notes all throughout it of all the different user stories and tasks and everything. It was like a massive board. And it actually took us about a week or so to kind of take all the stickies and actually put them into a virtual Scrum board. And what we actually did is we used Trello boards for that. And we basically, each card is a user story. And and because of using like Trello and using a virtual Scrum board, it's been actually really, really great because we can now, not just for the telecommuting, but also for like organization, because now we can fit all sorts of stuff in a Trello card, and we can actually link it and reference it to things. So if we have a help desk ticket that we're working on a bug, we can actually then relate it to a card, and vice versa, a card with the ticket. And also we have time tracking software that we use for billing. We can now then link the card. We can now link the card with the billing as well, which has been really, really amazing. And then the second thing that we did was we kind of set everyone up so they can use Slack video calls. So back last fall, we had Slack was what we were using. And we kind of transitioned to that. It wasn't until later like I think around January, we actually started doing some Office 365 stuff. We actually got Office 365 and with Teams, but we've been using Slack for so long. You know, we've been using Slack like for like 3+ years now or so. So to make that transition from Slack into Microsoft Teams, we're just not there yet. So basically with being more telecommuting friendly, we were able to kind of ease into a transition by mid-March for all of us becoming remote. We had no idea that we would all be becoming remote, but we kind of had a little bit of that infrastructure already there. But what we weren't really prepared for was kind of the flood of COVID-19 related work that kind of happened. A lot of clients, that if they had any like e-commerce site that we had for them that was kind of small, their whole business just went to e-commerce. So we had to basically ramp up and create all these different like e-commerce features for them. If there was any bugs or anything, we had to like iron those all out and everything. And it actually got to a point for one particular client that they were creating more tickets than what we could actually handle. We had to get 3 developers on it full time just for that one particular client to keep the numbers stable. But eventually we were able to kind of combat that and get all the tickets down and get everything solved within a reasonable time. And then basically, yeah, what the solution really was just kind of just keep swimming, just keep on coding, keep on developing. You know, because there's like this huge ocean of work, big, a lot of unknowns that are out there, and the best thing to do is kind of just tackle the issues kind of head first, and persistently work, but at a manageable pace. Don't overexert yourself at all, because then if you do that, then it makes it even more difficult to kind of keep up with all the work. But overall, I feel that this field experience has been great. I learned a lot, and I'm one of the unique students that's been in grad school for about 3 years now. I didn't go through the fast track. I didn't do the 4+1. So I've been in there. I've been taking about roughly a class a semester, and I've been able to learn what I've learned over the last 3 weeks in graduate school, not only to the last 16 weeks in the field experience, but also towards my career. And I really feel that being a full-time employee and getting a master's degree at the same time has been really, it's been a challenge, but I feel it's really been enriching and empowering kind of towards the success of my career, not only now, but also like just in the future. Let's see. Well, I think that's all. Thank you for watching my presentation.
All right, great, Joe. Thanks a lot. Hey, I'm curious before I open it up for everybody else to ask questions. Can you maybe show us something you've worked on? Are you allowed to maybe show us a website or anything? If it is sensitive, I understand. We get that with some field work. But if you have something, could you show us something?
I can take a quick look. A lot of the stuff that I've worked on has like HIPAA requirements to it. But let me see if I can pull up. Let's see here. I think you guys heard that.
Yeah, somebody's upset and jealous. You're talking to us instead of him.
Yeah. Let me try to share my screen here. We do actually have, like, for the PUPS project that I talked about, we actually do have an environment that doesn't have any HIPAA data. It's like a demo site, so I can kind of share that to you guys. Kind of cool. See if I can share my screen here. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
There it is. Oh, don't I look beautiful?
Cool. So one project that we worked on was called PUPS, right? And this environment is our demo site, and we call it the dog park. And basically, this is kind of where we can kind of we keep all the different client information, just we keep all the records and everything. We have like things from like different forms and notes, documentation about the patients. We have, different management of them. Let's see here, medication stuff as well. It's, yeah. So this is just kind of the front part of this. But we also have another back-end part of this called Unleashed, which is basically just an Electron app that kind of hooks into the API side of this, and lets patients or lets providers actually see, like, take their data then with them offline. So I think that's what I can show. That's the non-HIPAA.
Oh, no, that's fine. And I knew that going in. So what I'm going to do now for everybody else, I'm going to go ahead and I want to stop recording this. And anybody that would like to ask some questions, what I need you to do is unmute your mic, and then